Okay, day 2 of Bill's training camp is in the books. Sal Capaccio, Matt Bove, and Matt, we have moved down to the where the PR is, Bill's public relations, and it looks like a cafeteria style seating
Yeah.
here. It's where all the action takes place when you're in the dorms.
Doesn't this look like the type of booth you would find in like a hospital cafeteria and like the basement of a hospital? It's like the most generic pattern ever. The lighting actually isn't terrible if you're watching the actual video side of things. Yeah, we're just trying to get out of the dorm rooms as much as possible because you can go a little stir crazy in between those 4 cement walls that we've got.
You never know where we're going to come at you from. It's always game day in Buffalo. Today, back on the practice field, the Bills, it was day number 2 of the first round, I call it, because they have 3 practices and then they'll be back. So let's start on the defensive side. I just wrote at WGR550.com. One of my headline stories was the reinsertion of Mike Edwards into the starting lineup. Not reinsertion as if he was there before, but the guy that the Bills have kind of planned on being the starter. It was Damar Hamlin yesterday, maybe more of a nod of Damar's strong offseason and Mike Edwards, not being as much available because of the shoulder. He goes back into safety, but it looks like it's now Edwards and Rapp. But I don't see that changing anytime soon with Damar and Cole Bishop, and I don't see them changing anytime soon as the next 2.
No, I don't think so either. I think the plan for this team when they signed Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp was that it was going to be those 2. Then they ultimately end up drafting Cole Bishop. You remember, both of those moves happened before they drafted Cole Bishop. I think they're thinking of Cole Bishop much more as a long-term piece. We had a comment, because I do check the comments. Somebody was like, it's a waste of a second-round pick if Cole Bishop isn't going to play.
This is one of my biggest frustrating comments.
Just don't feel that way. No. I just think it's like you can ease somebody into it, and then he could be a very important piece for you moving forward. Like, I still think Cole Bishop is going to get on the field, but I think their starting safeties are going to be Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp. And if Cole Bishop is ready, then he could overtake one of them. I just don't see that happening right now. And like I kind of said yesterday on the pod, I think Damar Hamlin is probably somebody who's going to make the team as the 4th safety, but I didn't ever think it was going to stick that he was a starter.
This goes back. I've been hearing it. I've been on this for a long time. That comment has happened since the draft, that it's a wasted second-round pick if he doesn't start. No, he's going to play. He's going to have a role. Maybe it's the backup role in a fill-in. Maybe it's a nickel or dime safety, whatever it is. It's not a wasted pick just because he doesn't get on the field right away. James Cook didn't get on the field right away. He was a second-round pick. I mean, maybe Osiris Torrance spoiled everybody last year because he played every single snap. Yeah. But it's not easy just to walk into a defense that's, ready-made, that has all this talent on it, that's contending for a Super Bowl, and be a starting safety as a second-round pick. Then just come right in and do it.
Yeah, and I mean, Mike Edwards has played on multiple Super Bowl teams, and Taylor Rapp was signed like immediately in the offseason. So they very clearly valued both of those types of players. That's not to say that the long-term outlook for this is not very much involve Cole Bishop. I just think that given what the expectations are for this team, you want a sure thing on the field from the minute you start the season. This is not a team that is, trying to grow. Like, they've got a lot of new pieces, but the expectation for them is still to win a Super Bowl. So you don't have the luxury of having a couple inexperienced guys who you can be patient with. Like, you need production right away. And I think that's what they'll get from those other 2.
The other player that showed up on the starting side of things is Dawuane Smoot, a defensive end. It's a guy that has played 99 NFL games. He is basically starting at defensive end in a rotation with AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Von Miller. Not necessarily in that order. It's usually Rousseau and Epinesa, Von Miller as well. But the 3 there, it feels like they're kind of settling on Dawuane Smoot as the 4th guy in that rotation right now.
Yeah. So Greg Rousseau, we can all agree, is the number 1. After that, it's probably Von Miller, AJ Epinesa, and now it appears to be Dawuane Smoot. And I also think Javon Solomon is just a lock to make the team because of where they drafted him. That's 5 defensive ends. I don't think they would keep more than that. So we have to see how this plays out. Is this a rotation day-by-day thing? And then the next day we see Casey Toohill as the 4th defensive end, or eventually we see Kingsley Jonathan in that same role. I do not know the answer to that, but if I were a betting man right now, I would say Smoot is the guy of the others that ultimately makes it.
Dawuane Smoot had 4 years straight, 2019 through 2022, of at least 5 sacks. 5.5, or 6 every single year for 4 straight years. And he's just a couple years removed from that. He didn't have as good a production last year, only a sack. But that is a really nice number if that's your 4th defensive end. That if he could get to that and maintain that type of production, that would be a really nice get for the Bills.
Well, that's what I mean. It just gives you options, right? And it also keeps your other guys fresher when you need them. So if Dawuane Smoot is on the field, maybe that means you can use Von Miller. a little less, and people are going to hear that and they're going to be like, but Von Miller makes so much money. He needs to be on the field. He needs to be a difference maker. I think he's his most productive when he's on the field in obvious passing downs, right? Like go get after the quarterback. And then maybe that means there is a bigger role for Dwayne Smoot. I still think it's going to be very much Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa, and then Von Miller / Smoot / the other guys.
Yeah, I told you, never know what you're going to see. We got John Scott rolling in here, Jonathan Acosta. They're just coming by. Look at these guys. This is what happens in the dorm. Say hi. That's our colleagues and friends. They're going over to their dorm rooms. They're getting wrapped up with some of the media stuff. What's it like on a day like today? It's okay. So a little behind the scenes here, a little peek behind the curtain. It's 3:30 p.m. We're recording this. Like, what does your day look like from TV side of things as far as timing?
I mean, day started at like 8:30 as far as the workday is concerned. And then, the press conferences are at 9:15. It's kind of go for most of the day. It's rush and then wait. And then you get a little bit of a lull once practice is that's the best part for me. Like when you're just actually sitting, watching practice, taking notes, writing down your observations, figuring all that stuff out. Yeah. So, I mean, 3:30, we've got a little bit left, probably get about another like hour and a half of work left. And then we'll maybe take a nap.
Two more things on the defense quickly, and we'll shift to the offense. Number one, Kyer Elam still getting run with the ones and the twos. He's going to be in this mix for a while. I don't know what the realistic opportunity is for him or chance for him to break through, but it feels like he's kind of carried his strong offseason into training camp. And when we don't talk about him, that's a good thing. Remember a couple of years ago, he's so grabby. We're talking about that all the time, but had a strong offseason. It feels like the Bills are going to give him every opportunity.
You think so? You think that they're going to give him every opportunity to be a starter or to make the team?
To be a starter, although they'll give him opportunity, but I don't know how long that lasts. They'll just see. They'll take it as long as they can and then ultimately decide, hey, it's not going to be your job. I also think it's every opportunity to make sure that they're okay with him playing as maybe the third boundary corner.
Yeah, basically like being this year's version and last year's version of, the last several years versions of Dane Jackson, or before that, Levi Wallace.
Who, by the way, that would be great for him. That'd be great. That'd be nice if the Bills could get that from him.
Yeah, it's tough though because of what they used to get him, and they used a first-round pick. There will always be big expectations. If he's ever just the third corner on the team, people will say, well, it was a bad draft pick, and that would be a very justified reaction to that. I don't see it though. It's not that I don't think that he's still valuable and he still has plenty of upside. I really do. I just very clearly think it's Russell Douglas and it's Christian Benford, and then it's him. I think these snaps are more to see what he is as the potential 3 than as a potential starter.
I'll also say, let's remember, Christian Benford has had some injuries the first 2 years in the league, so you need to have somebody getting reps to make sure, in case something happens where he isn't healthy. The other note on defense is another defensive back. Cam Lewis went down briefly today. Yeah. Trainers looked at him. He went off. I watched closely. They brought the massage gun over. He was massaging his calf. He went back on defense, so he was fine. Afterwards, I did ask him. He said, yes, it was a cramp. He confirmed that. So That's good news that Cam Lewis, Mr. Versatility, is okay. Let's go to the offensive side. After we're done here, we invite you to go to the audio version of this podcast. This is the video version that you're watching probably. If you're listening to the audio version, you're going to get a Dawson Knox interview. So we'll talk about Dawson, and we invite everybody to do that. On the video side at Sal Sports on the YouTube page, you're not going to get that. So this is exclusive to the audio with a Dawson Knox interview. And we talked about a lot of cool things with Dawson Knox.
Yeah, Dawson Knox is a player who, even though his role after they added Dalton Kincaid probably diminished a bit, is still so crucially important to this team and to this offense. Josh trusts him, and he trusts him in big moments. Think about all of the plays that he has made in big games and specifically in the playoffs. I don't know this for sure, but I think he's caught the first touchdown in every playoff game they've had with Josh Allen as the quarterback. Like, he just gets in the end zone in the playoffs and in the big games. You think about the Chiefs game a couple years ago in the regular season, he makes the big touchdown catch at the end. The Bills are their best when they have both Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. And I think what Joe Brady needs to figure out is the best ways of utilizing both of those, because I think that's what Ken Dorsey tried to do. And it was one of the reasons why they did not have a lot of success on offense. And I do think that Kincaid is going to be the guy that's, like the primary target among all the pass catchers this year. But I still very much think Dawson Knox plays a big role.
Speaking of primary targets, I asked you today on the field, do you think that Mac Hollins has been kind of Josh's favorite target? Because every time I look up, it seems like the ball's coming his way. You said no. You think it's a different guy?
I think it's Curtis Samuel. I think Curtis Samuel, as far as day 2 is concerned, was the most impactful player on offense. The highlight of the day for him was this absolute rocket of a pass from Josh Allen between two defenders, one of which was Cam Lewis. These guys,
we were standing right there. How did he fit that ball in?
I mean, like, these guys are in great coverage, and Josh just threw it a seed right down the basically like it was kind of like right down the middle of the field, and Samuel comes down with the ball. It was one of the last plays of 11 on 11. Those two guys like kind of collided the defenders, which allowed Samuel to just walk into the end zone. In a real game, probably not a touchdown, probably down by contact, but that was not the only nice play he made. He had another like 25-yard reception going in the other direction during practice. They were using him on different passes. I don't know what we're allowed to say, but he was all over the place as far as the Bills' offenses, and I think that that's going to kind of be what we see all season.
I think the best way to say it is how we've been talking about how they're going to possibly use him. We saw that today, right? Yeah. Which is he's just he's a Swiss Army knife. He can do a lot of different things. I saw, I understand. Listen, this is taken with there's no hitting, there's no tackling. But one thing that impressed me today was the burst from some of the running backs when they got in the open field. Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, James Cook, they all, now granted, they're not getting tackled. And then once they get through, nobody's really chasing them down necessarily. They took it to the house, and all of them showed some burst and speed.
I mean, Ray Davis had like a legit house call. Like there was one that was probably a 50 or 60-yard rushing touchdown where he hit a hole and there was a gap and he hit it and he ran it all the way. So I think that there were some positive signs there. I do think I'm really interested. I liked your question to Joe Brady about what they're looking for after James Cook. He gave like a very like coach speak answer, which I guess is not shocking at all. I'm interested how he views their skill sets and how he would compare and contrast them, because I do think that is going to be another storyline that we follow really throughout the entire preseason, because I do think that probably a safe bet James Cook like plays a game, but maybe not more than that. And it'll be a lot of Ray Davis, Ty Johnson. And I think whoever has the better summer will probably be the number 2 guy when the season starts.
We saw Keon Coleman as usual today and make, his share of catches, but we also saw a rookie mistake. Caught the ball in a slant pattern, tried to turn upfield, ball hits the ground. Matt and I were debating if it was a incompletion or a completion. Either way, a mistake either way, because if it's a completion, it's a fumble. If it's an incompletion, it's a pure drop. But those are the kinds of things he's going to need to clean up, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, Ray Davis had one of those rookie mistakes too, on like a shuffle pass that he bobbled that I think would have been a fumble. So rookie mistakes. I really was impressed with Keon Coleman in day one. The one thing I'll say, like, yes, you want to see him clean that up. A lot of these guys have been getting work with the first team and with the second team, and they're all over the place. I have not seen Keon Coleman take a snap with the second team offense. I think he is very much in their plans and will very much play a factor early in the season. Like, he is on the field with Josh Allen, only Josh Allen. And you cannot say that for Curtis Samuel. We saw him take a couple second team snaps. We saw the same thing with MVS. We saw the same thing with Chase Claypool. The guys who are exclusively working with Josh Allen are basically Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, and Mac Hollins, and James Cook. Like, those are these skill position players that are just working with Josh. So I think he's definitely like kind of carved out a really nice path to what could be a very strong rookie season.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you just made, because I think back to Sean McDermott telling us on day one about how a lot of things are going to be intentional to make sure that the receivers and quarterbacks get, like, that Josh gets on the same page. And I think by you saying that, it's like they want Keon to really get a feel of Josh and not get mixed and matched here, right? Just, hey, yes, he's going to have to eventually take passes from other people, but this is very important for him to understand and get as much with Josh as opposed to anyone else.
Well, it's interesting. It's such an interesting dynamic, because I agree with everything you said, but they all need that besides Khalil Shakir. Like, they all need to get up to speed with Josh. For him, it's doubly important because Keon Coleman doesn't have any NFL experience, right, but Curtis Samuel doesn't have experience with Josh Allen. MVS doesn't have it. Mac Hollins doesn't have it. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see if this continues. But one of the things I was going to post today on social media was like, the Bills are not taking it slow with Keon Coleman. Like, it feels like they have thrown him right into the fire and they are expecting him to perform. And so far, I would say the majority of it is so good.
I forgot to mention on the defensive side the day Ed Oliver had. He was really good today. He was impressive today, especially early in the practice. He didn't flash as much later, but in the very first series, batted down a ball. The very first play, actually batted down the ball in 11 on 11. Then later, he got a push and kind of disrupted the spacing of Josh, and they had to blow the play dead. You're not going to want him to obviously hit him, but he made his presence known.
That was one of those moments that, like, you know, if you're a fan, your life flashes before your eyes as you see Josh Allen take contact from an offensive lineman who's being pushed into him, and then everybody stops and it's quiet for a second until you realize that everything is fine. Ed Oliver, to me, is, I think Matt Milano is the most important player on defense. Ed Oliver, to me, is probably number 2. And after what he did last year, I think you could maybe even make the argument that he's number 1. I think he is so good. And I think this line is built from the inside out, as opposed to in years past potentially being built from the outside in. Ed Oliver is every bit worth the contract extension that he got. And him getting to play alongside now Daquan Jones for ideally more than 4 games, I think that could unlock a new level for even both of them.
Have we seen them do any team field goals yet? The specialists usually work on the turf field. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen them do anything with team field goal wise.
No, I don't think I have either, actually. I really haven't noticed much of it. I know that they were doing all their other special team stuff. I haven't seen any field goals out on the main field.
Okay, very interesting. Anything else that comes to your mind you want to talk about before we wrap on the video side here?
Matt Collins is somebody who we talked a little bit about yesterday. You talked a little bit about, like, Matt Collins is making this team and is having an impact on this offense, probably bigger than anybody originally anticipated. What do you think the ceiling is? Like, what would you say the amount of catches for Matt Collins?
Maybe 50.
I was going to say 40, 50, somewhere in that range. I know that would be more productive than he's been. It just feels like they love this guy. Yeah. The way they talk.
Josh does.
Josh does too. They are talking. Stephon Diggs had this energy and juice and competitiveness about him that was contagious, and he had elite level skill. I'm not comparing Matt Collins to Stephon Diggs as far as talent is concerned, but like energy and competitiveness, there are a lot of similarities. So one of the things that was asked earlier in the offseason is, like, how are you going to replace all of that stuff that Steph brought? And they always said Matt Collins. And now we're getting out to a setting like this, and it's just like so blatantly obvious. Like, there was a deep ball that Josh threw to Matt Collins. Matt Collins makes the catch, and all of the receivers always run it out and bring it into the end zone. And Josh is sprinting to catch up with Mac, and they're high-fiving and jumping up and down as they're running into the end zone. Like, he has very clearly become one of the more popular guys among the teammates. And I think that kind of stuff matters.
All right. So anything else here that we didn't touch on that you can think of? Dawson, how about this? We're going to wrap up on the video side, but kind of preview and let everybody know about Dawson Knox and where they can go to get it and what we talked about.
Yeah. So Dawson, the reason we can't do this on video is because we do this interview after practice is done on the field. So we chit-chatted with him for several minutes. He is a friend of the podcast at this point. I think we've had Dawson on every single year at some point during training camp. So if you're watching, we'll see you guys again soon. If you're listening, don't go anywhere because Dawson Knox is next. And before we do Dawson Knox, let's also remind everybody about Barbell. Yes. We're going to be there Monday night, July 29th. That's this coming Monday night. 1129 Empire Boulevard. Going to have the WGR promotions team there, some people there, some giveaways, some stuff going on. It's going to be a really nice night at Barbell Monday, July 29th. That's coming up this week at 7 p.m. Matt and I are going to be there. We're going to be wrapped just like this. We're going to be talking about the Bills, and then we're going to hang around. We're going to have some wings and chat with some people. Yeah, we're going to be just like this, but without this kind of weird booth behind us and with some very good chicken wings and maybe a pop or two. All right, so I just checked a little while ago today. First of all, thank you. Like yesterday, we did just on the video side over 5,000 views, which is great. But we want you to keep subscribing and watching. I just checked today. I'm 600 people away from 8,000 subscribers on the YouTube page. So let's get to it. Okay, we need more subscribers on the YouTube page. Sal Sports on YouTube. Check it out. We got It's Always Game Day in Buffalo. Got some Sal's House podcasts coming up. But anytime we drop a video episode, bam, you get it right there, even before we do the audio, which then we post later. And speaking of audio, we have the Dawson Knox interview coming up next year. So keep it here. If you're watching on video, go download the audio. If you're listening to the audio, you have it. Dawson Knox right now, and It's Always Game Day in Buffalo.